Universal Basic Income, UBI, sounds like the ultimate free lunch, right? Everyone gets a check just for breathing. But here's the thing, what if I told you that this so-called solution could actually screw us all over? I'm talking about higher taxes, entrenched inequality, and a system that could turn your life into a damn hamster wheel of survival. Yeah, UBI might seem like a quick fix, but the truth, it's more like a ticking time bomb waiting to blow up our economy. Universal basic income might sound like a dream, but it's actually a sneaky way to undermine one of the most basic human rights, the right to work. Think about it. Instead of creating real jobs that give people dignity and purpose, UBI just hands out cash and says, here, survive on this. But surviving isn't thriving, is it? And let's not forget that having a job isn't just about the paycheck, it's about having a sense of purpose, feeling like you're contributing something to society. But UBI, it could make people complacent, maybe even lazy, because who needs to work when you've got free money rolling in, right? Well, that's the damn problem. Instead of pushing for full employment, which is what we really need, UBI just throws a band-aid on the issue and calls it a day. And trust me, that band-aid is not gonna hold. Now let's talk about inequality, because if you think UBI is going to magically make everyone equal, you've got another thing coming. UBI might actually entrench inequality even deeper. Here's the deal. Without fixing the core issues like access to decent education, healthcare, and housing, handing out cash is like throwing water on a grease fire. It doesn't solve the problem, it just spreads it around. Think about it. The rich, they'll still be rich living their cushy lives, but the poor, they're stuck with a basic income that's barely enough to get by, while the cost of living keeps climbing. And guess what happens next? Those at the bottom stay at the bottom, trapped in a cycle of barely scraping by. UBI, instead of lifting people up, could actually solidify a permanent underclass. That's not progress, that's a damn tragedy. And here's the kicker, even if you do get that UBI check, don't expect it to be a golden ticket. The reality, it's more like a copper penny. The amount of money you'd actually receive is likely to be set so low that it barely covers the basics, if that. We're talking about just enough to keep you from starving, but nowhere near enough to live comfortably. Why? Because if the government set UBI at a level that actually allowed for a decent standard of living, the whole system would collapse under its own weight. It's financially unsustainable. So instead, you're looking at a lowball figure that leaves you deciding whether to pay the rent or buy groceries. And let's be real, scraping by like that isn't living, it's surviving. Hell, you might even find yourself worse off than before, especially when inflation kicks in and that already small check shrinks in value. UBI might promise you the moon, but in reality, it's handing you crumbs. Alright, let's dig into another nasty side effect of UBI, housing inequality. Now, I'm sure you've heard that UBI will give people more freedom, maybe even help them afford a decent place to live. But here's the harsh truth. Without a solid social housing plan in place, UBI could actually make things worse. How? By pushing people into cheaper, less desirable areas with fewer job opportunities. You know what that means? You get your UBI check, but suddenly the rent in decent areas shoots through the roof because landlords know everyone has extra cash. So where do you end up? In a rundown neighborhood, far from any real opportunities, while those who already had the upper hand continue to live in the best spots. It's like being stuck in a game of Monopoly, where the rich keep collecting properties, and you're left scrambling for Baltic Avenue. UBI, instead of leveling the playing field, could just widen the damn gap. And let's not forget about the elephant in the room, taxes. To fund UBI, we're talking about jacking up taxes to levels that make your head spin. And here's the kicker, those higher taxes aren't just going to hit the rich. Sure, they'll take a big chunk out of the wealthy, but sooner or later, everyone else gets caught in the crossfire. Think about it, where's all this free money coming from? It's not growing on trees, that's for sure. Even if you tax the rich into oblivion, it won't be enough to sustain a nationwide UBI without turning around and digging deeper into everyone's pockets. And what do you get in return? A small check that's barely enough to keep your head above water, while your cost of living keeps rising. It's like bailing out a sinking boat with a spoon. So yeah, you get your UBI, but don't be surprised when your paycheck takes a hit to cover the tab. This isn't economic freedom, it's a damn trap. Let's get one thing straight. Universal basic income is no substitute for having a real job. You know, the kind that gives you a sense of purpose and dignity, not just a handout to keep you from drowning. UBI might sound like an easy fix, but it's actually a pretty lazy solution to a much deeper problem. Here's the reality. Full employment isn't just about getting people off the couch. It's about giving them opportunities to grow, to contribute, and to build something for themselves. UBI, on the other hand, is like putting a band-aid on a broken leg. Sure, it might cover up the wound, but it doesn't heal the damn thing. Full employment means people have a reason to get up in the morning, something to strive for. UBI, it just keeps you afloat, but it doesn't get you anywhere. In the long run, that's not just unsustainable, it's downright demoralizing. And if you think UBI is going to lift everyone out of poverty, think again. There's a very real risk that it could create a permanent underclass, a group of people stuck in a cycle of just getting by with no real path to something better. Let's be honest, when you're living on a fixed income that barely covers your needs, where's the motivation to push for more? This isn't just about people being lazy, it's about the system itself trapping them in a rut. UBI could easily turn into a crutch that people lean on instead of a ladder they climb. And let's face it, once you're stuck in that cycle, it's damn hard to get out. Without opportunities for real upward mobility, like education, job training, and decent employment, you're basically handing people a lifetime sentence of mediocrity. UBI, instead of being a safety net, could become a trapdoor that locks people into a lower tier of society with no real way out, and that's not progress. It's a damn shame. Now let's talk about one of the biggest flaws in the whole UBI fantasy, funding essential services. You might be thinking, well, if everyone gets a basic income, that should help with things like healthcare, education, and housing, right? Wrong. UBI doesn't magically solve these problems. In fact, it could make it even harder to fund the services we all rely on. Here's the kicker. When the government is shelling out money to everyone, where do you think the funds for hospitals, schools, and public housing come from? Spoiler alert, they come from the same pot. And if that pot's being drained by UBI, guess what? There's less money left for everything else. So while you're getting a monthly check, you might also be facing crumbling schools, underfunded hospitals, and a housing market that's still out of reach. UBI isn't just a distraction from the real issues, it's a drain on the resources that could actually fix them. But wait, it gets worse. Let's talk about the dangers of programmable money, because that's where things start getting downright creepy. UBI might not just be a check in the mail, it could come with strings attached, and I'm talking about some seriously tight strings. Imagine getting your UBI, but finding out you can only spend it on certain things, in certain places, or even within a certain time frame. That's programmable money, where the government controls how, where, and when you spend your cash. Want to buy something the powers that be don't approve of? Too bad, your UBI won't cover it. This isn't just about financial support, it's about control. And if that doesn't send chills down your spine, I don't know what will. UBI might start as a safety net, but it could easily turn into a leash. So there you have it, the real story behind universal basic income. It's not the savior it's made out to be. In fact, it's more like a ticking time bomb, ready to blow up our economy, our freedoms, and the services we rely on. But here's the thing, I'm just getting started. There's so much more to dig into, and I want to keep bringing you the hard truths, no matter how uncomfortable they might be. If you found this video eye-opening, or even if it just made you think a little differently, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I'm a small creator, and making videos like this takes a lot of time, effort, and yes, money. Every subscriber helps me keep going, helps me keep uncovering the truth. So subscribe, share, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.